The other day I came across a little YouTube short. Abby Howard, I think. Yes. I don't know. I think so. She and her husband make content on YouTube, just silly stuff, kind of lifestyle, shorts, whatever. They have a podcast. It's taken off. It's crazy. The guests they have on there. It's really cool to see. I like them, but at the same time, I try not to consume. Although they have pivoted. They don't include their kids in their content anymore, so I really respect that. But if you know anything about me, I don't like people who use their kids for content, or I should say where the kids are the main content and you're profiting off of your children. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about a short that I came across. Abby was chatting. She does these little get ready makeup videos and she'll talk about whatever story. I might have the story wrong. I'm just kind of repeating it from memory. But it was something along the lines, she was going to like a fast food place or ordering food and the system was down, I think, and she had to pay cash maybe or something. And then the guy asked for her number and she was kind of embarrassed or not embarrassed, but felt kind of awkward that she had to be like, sorry, I'm married. Or she made some kind of remark about like, I'm not interested. And as he's sliding her the piece of paper to write down her phone number for the rewards program, right? And she said she was so embarrassed. And I thought about it as I'm watching it. And I was like, I don't think embarrass is the right word. Because I think it was even captioned the most embarrassing thing ever. You know, of course, they always have to be dramatic, you know, for these titles and everything. I mean, I kind of do it too. We all make things sound out a little bit more dramatic than it is. But I was like, well, I wouldn't use the word embarrassed in this context. I, to be fair, don't know exactly what happened. And when I say that, I mean, I wasn't there to witness it. I don't know his side. I don't know the exact exchange. We're only getting her side of the story and her reiteration or her like memory, right? Because we forget as humans, we retell stories, but we're really just retelling what we remember, and what we don't remember, our brain fills in with other information. So relying on memory for recounting stories, retelling stories is not very reliable. Our memories are not very good, and the longer that it's been since it's occurred, your brain is even more likely. It is so warm in here. I'm like, sweating just talking. I should probably I don't want to turn the air on though, because when I turn the air on, it's really loud in the background. I don't know if the microphone would pick up on it though. I don't know. Yeah, this little clip bothered me. Obviously, I'm here talking about it. It bothered me because I'm like, why is she feeling embarrassed over something that was probably not even her fault? Maybe he was being a little flirty in the undertone. His personality may have been a little bit like that charming type of person, or she really just completely misread the situation. But also, if he wasn't being clear and he's like, hey, can you write down your phone number? People are going to go, wait, what do you need my phone number for, right? Your mind is, as a woman, especially a guy is asking for your number, your brain is going to go to, well, he's trying to ask me out. So I just thought it was funny or sad. I don't know, funny, sad, that she felt embarrassed over this. And then I further thought about it, and I thought about how often we blame ourselves for things that are not our fault. When we are in awkward situations or someone says something that wasn't crystal clear, we jump to the conclusion that, well, I'm in the wrong. I messed up. I'm so embarrassed because I misread the situation, when it may not have been your fault at all. The situation could have been very confusing, the way they spoke, the way they maybe weren't 100% clear themselves. I think I do have to turn the air on here. Hey Google, I hope the air isn't distracting. I had to turn the air on. It's so warm in here. We're heading into the warmer days. I mean, it's always pretty warm in LA year round. It never really gets cold. But when you've lived here for a while, 60s suddenly becomes cold. That's when you're complaining that it's cold outside. Even though I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in Sweden, I've lived in really cold places where minus 20 is freezing cold. And now I'm complaining about 60 degrees. It's crazy how you adapt. So I had to turn the air on. I'm a little warm. As we were saying, as I was talking about, sometimes people, when they communicate, I'm not saying, by the way, for this specific example, that this is what happened in the interaction between Abby and the gentleman behind the counter. I'm not saying that this is what it is. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have enough context and information to judge that situation. I'm only using that example because it got me thinking about this topic. I want to be crystal clear here. Sometimes people say things that sometimes they say things they don't mean, but sometimes people say things because they're kind of seeing which way it'll be interpreted. Like, for example, if you're asking someone out and you're kind of shy, this could happen guy or girl, so I'm not going to say whichever, but let's say as a person, you're asking someone out, but you're kind of shy, you're not very confident, you're afraid you're going to get rejected. That person might say, hey, I was wondering if you wanted to go out this Saturday, grab dinner. And their response is, oh, sorry, I have a boyfriend or I have a girlfriend. And they go, oh, no, I just meant as friends, right? And they change their answer, right? But if they said, yes, oh, yeah, I'd like to. And then that person is like, ooh, maybe this is a date. This is the problem. I've talked about this so much before. I know I reiterate a lot and I repeat myself, but this is why it's so important that we are clear in our language so we don't have miscommunications. But in these instances, people actually are deliberately trying to read the situation without trying to embarrass themselves or look bad. So they go, okay, well, let me say this. And if they answer this way, then I'll change my perspective or my answer based on what they say. I think it's cheap and phony. Stand by what you say. You're going to look awkward in life. It's part of life. It's always a risk that we take every day to look foolish. We're going to say stupid things. If you're trying to become more confident in yourself and socialize better, I think a lot of people now post-COVID are struggling with socializing and feeling awkward in social situations because they haven't done it in so long, at least not face to face. You're like, what do I say? What do I talk about? And it's a skill like anything else that you have to get comfortable doing. You have to get used to it. And you're going to make some bad jokes. You're going to say some silly things. You're going to say something that sounds awkward. Everybody does it. There's no way around it, really. Like, you just have to keep putting yourself in that situation. As an actor, I hear this a lot in acting school, and it's something I remind myself of a lot. Most actors who are going to get up on stage or when you perform in front of a lot of people, you're going to get nervous, right? Because there's pressure, but the pressure is really the pressure you're putting on yourself. It's not really other people. You put pressure on yourself to perform well. This applies to other things than just acting. That's why I'm bringing it up. But we put this pressure on ourselves. We're nervous, right? You have these nerves. And, well, I want to say a little tip about being nervous. If you're nervous, remember that it's the same stimuli as excitement. The feeling that you get on a physical level is the exact same thing as feeling excited. What's different is your feeling behind it, right? Your thoughts behind it. One is nervous and the other one is excited. It's positive and negative, if you want to put it simply. But remember, it's the same physical thing that's happening to your body, and just switch it in your brain when you're feeling nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. That helps a lot for nerves. And also tell yourself, if you're nervous, it's okay to be nervous. When we're nervous, it means we care about it. We care about doing this thing well. In fact, if you never get nervous, it could be a sign that you don't really care that much. But we care as humans. We're passionate. We want to do well. We want to make people proud. We want to make them happy, and we get nervous for things. It's very normal. But back to my main point, the more you do something, the easier it becomes. So if I get nervous before performing, the answer isn't, well, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this often, and maybe I can avoid it somehow or do it less. No, do it more. Expose yourself as much as possible. Exposure therapy, right? Keep repeating it. Keep putting yourself in that position where you have to deal with those feelings because you become better equipped to deal with it. Same goes for socializing. Put yourself in those situations where you're socializing a lot. Maybe practice with family and younger people, kids, I don't know, whatever you got to do, but put yourself in those situations where you're always practicing that skill and understand that it's a muscle that needs to grow like anything else. And you're going to say awkward things. You're going to make a joke that was poorly timed, or it was kind of awkward, or maybe even offensive. And I mean, if it goes in that direction where you're offending and hurting people's feelings, then just, take accountability, of course, but you're gonna mess up. It's part of life. We can't avoid it. I think as humans, we try to avoid uncomfortable situations as much as possible. I don't like this, so I'm not gonna do it. When I was a kid, my mom forced me to do things that made me uncomfortable. And that might sound horrible, but it was actually brilliant. I remember being as young as 5, 6, 7 years old, and we had to call a company, maybe call a restaurant to see if they were open. Something simple, right? It wasn't complicated for my age. My mom knew I was capable of doing it, but I would tell her, no, I'm too scared, Mom. I'm nervous. I don't want to do it. She said, no, you have to do it. This is part of life. And she was teaching me a very valuable lesson every time she exposed me to that. When I reached adulthood or late teens, I was making phone calls what feels like every day to customer service and trying to get help with a problem with my computer or making reservations, or I've done a lot of assistant work in my life, and as an assistant you have to make reservations, book things. You're always calling different people and calling establishments, calling people that you're not familiar with, and that helped prepare me tremendously. I was never nervous. I could call anybody without thinking twice about it. And then I didn't realize it was a big deal or that it was a skill that I'd acquired, I guess, until people pointed out. They're like, oh, Nikki, you're so comfortable calling everybody. You never, and I'm like, yes. I didn't think of it as being something special until I realized it makes people really nervous. There are people who are super nervous about making phone calls and calling strangers and people they haven't called before. And I go, wow, I'm lucky. My mom really pushed me in those situations where I was uncomfortable because she knew it was a life skill that I needed. It is a life skill. In today's world that we are a part of, calling people that you don't know is a life skill. Don't avoid it. Expose yourself to it. You're going to sound dumb and, hi, you're going to say, you're going to be nervous, you're going to stutter and all that stuff. It's super normal, but you have to do it more, practice it. I try to be very aware of how I speak. I put a lot of thought into it. I try to be very intentional with my words. I've said this before, but if you consume my content, you'll probably catch me pausing a lot. I'm thinking. I'm pausing to think, put my thoughts together, and avoid the because constantly becomes quite distracting. So I try to be aware of that. Try not to. See, I'm doing it right now. Try not to fill out the time by saying because that's another nervous tick. We feel this pressure, again, the pressure we're putting on ourselves. I got to say something. Let me think. You're not thinking. You're like working yourself up and becoming nervous. Just deep breath. Even if you have to take like a weird internal deep breath, just calm the mind, slow down, collect your thoughts, and then speak. Little things, but it makes a big difference. Same thing with, this is like a pet peeve of mine, it's just why I'm talking about it, but when you call I used to work in customer service for a long time. I worked in retail, answering phones. I've dealt with all that for many years, probably 10 years. And it always drove me crazy when people would call. I had this one lady call me. She goes, hi, I have this movie that I just bought from Target. I used to work at Target. And I came home and I sat down with my whole family. I just popped popcorn and we're getting ready to watch the movie. And we opened the DVD and there was no DVD in the DVD case. And I was very disappointed. She goes on and I'm like, lady, just say you need to speak someone with in electronics department, or say, hey, I bought a movie and it wasn't there. Can I get a refund or a return or whatever? It drove me crazy. People would come in with these elaborate stories, or even worse, they'd call and they didn't know what they were going to say yet. They'd be like, so I had this, I bought That's the fastest way to drive me crazy. When you're calling a company, this is more of a tip now that I'm realizing. I'm giving this to you as a tip if you struggle with this. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make fun of you, but this is my pet peeve. If you're calling somebody or in a, like customer service or whatever, figure out as it's going ring, ring while you're waiting, collect your thoughts and figure out what you're going to say in that first sentence and try to summarize as best you can. And if you can't say, hey, I have a really complicated issue, I apologize, I'm going to have to explain this, but try to collect your thoughts, figure out what you want to say, because these skills are important, because ultimately we end up wasting people's time when we think that saying more is valuable, right? We sound smart if we talk more and more. No, it's better to say less and speak in a concise manner. Say less and get to the point. That's my piece of advice. Collect your thoughts before you call customer service. Figure out what you need help with, and they'll be very thankful as well. And also just use manners. I'm telling you, so many times when I speak to customer service reps, I'll just be like, hey, how's your day going? Treat them like a person and not like a robot, right? It makes such a big difference. I'll have people respond saying, thank you for being so kind to me. You're the kindest person I've ever spoken to. And I'm like, all I said was like, hey, how are you? Or thank you, I appreciate your help. I'll just say the very basic, simple things. And that makes a world of a difference, because majority of the people that they're dealing with day to day are angry, pissed off, give me help, whatever. I bought this, I spent so much money on this and this isn't working. And they curse the poor person out who's just trying to do their job. Kindness goes a long way. Summarizing your thoughts goes a long way. And it's all a practice. It's all a skill that you have to expose yourself to. Keeping it short and sweet today. I actually have to get going. I have to head out, go to work. So I got to wrap it up, but I hope you were able to take something with you today. As always, please share your thoughts with me. I love to hear what people think, and any critique, feedback, whatever you have that you want to share that's on your heart. I'd love to hear it. Please take care of yourself. Have a great, productive, peaceful rest of your week, and I will be back for more.